Hey, champions, how are you doing? This is Chris Gloss. Step outside your comfort zone. Welcome. Come on. And if you are watching live, thank you so much for being here. And do me a huge personal favor. Go ahead and type where you are watching from down in the chat. I want to know where you're watching from, see how we can connect. And also, if you are watching the replay, do me a huge favor, put hashtag replay so that we know that you are a part of the Replay Champion Squad, right? So we can know that you watch. And if you have any questions or comments, just go ahead and leave them there and we will check them and get back to you. I am so excited because Sunday is pre-game. We are excited about tonight. We have a great topic that we're going to talk about, which is unlocking curiosity. I have some great questions that may be able to help you remove the obstacles that are standing in your way to get from where you are to where you want to be. Could it be possible that if you were more curious about the things in your life, that it would create more engagement in those things and leading to more success, let me say it like this, more successful outcomes? Could it be possible that if you were more curious about your relationship, that your relationship could turn into something absolutely amazing, can turn into the relationship you always wanted if you were more curious and your significant other was more curious? Could it be possible that if you were more curious about your job, about your side hustle, your business, your entrepreneurship, that if you were more curious about it, thinking about the opportunities, thinking about the possibilities and going for them, that it would unlock a new fire, a new desire on the inside of you to make things happen so that you can get uncommon results? Could it be possible that if we unlock curiosity, that we could see some things in our life this year, that we could see some things in our life this week, this day, by just being more curious? So we're going to explore that today. I have my amazing panel back with me, and we are going to chop it up and just talk about unlocking curiosity in different areas of our life. So let me go ahead and bring my champion panel on the screen so that we can go ahead and talk about unlocking curiosity. I'm so excited that they are here. Let's give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. They are here in the building. We have Carrington, Harry, and Tim in the building. Let's go around the room and let them introduce themselves before we get started with anything. So I'll pass the mic to none other than Carrington.
Hi, you guys. Thanks for having me, Chris. My name is Carrington Warfield. I am owner of Virtual Visions Event Planning Services. We provide virtual event planning, so it's pretty simple. And again, thanks for having me here, Chris. I'm excited about our discussion tonight.
Fantastic. We are excited that you are here. Next up, we have none other than Mr. Tim White. Tim, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim White. I am an independent consultant and working in the areas actually close to this, dealing with employee development, leadership development. And then I have a business in the jewelry market. So I also provide natural gemstone bracelets and necklaces. So glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Outstanding. And last but definitely not least, I'm curious to find out who's this third person on our panel. So without further ado, Harry, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Harry Jameson, Harry the Big Dog, and I am a live stream producer. I have 3 shows right now. One is a DJ interview, one is Ready Live Pro, and one is Veterans Laughs Matter, where we help veterans get better through laughter. And I'm just excited to be here. I'm curious to find out what we're going to be talking about.
Awesome. Outstanding. Great way to lead into the conversation. So one definition of the word curiosity, which is very interesting, is a strong desire to know or learn something, a strong desire to know or learn something. And it's very interesting because I believe in my reading and my research that that's the precursor to unlocking unlimited amounts of productivity that produce the results that we're looking for and to produce the results that we desire, just by having a strong desire to know more, to learn more. That's going to be something that's going to lead us into our own personal creativity and everything else that's been lying dormant. So that's what we want to talk about as we go around the room. So I want to kick this question off. I'm going to pass this first question to Tim. So Tim, when you think about curiosity, what comes to mind in your business as far as concerning your business and different things that you're engaged in?
The first word that comes to mind for me would be suspicion. And so really it's ignited by that curiosity, and it leads you into that definition that you just described of the desire or the interest to know more. And through that explanation of knowing more, then it can lead to some type of impact. It could be a change. It could just be increasing your level of awareness around subject X, whatever it may be. And so then the question becomes, well, what do I do with this information, right? And so when I think of curiosity, that's really what path it leads me to.
That's an interesting word, suspicion. Right. That leads to that intrigue, that it really leads to that area of wanting to know more, wanting to learn more and find out what are the details surrounding something. I like the way you positioned that. So Nikki, let me come over to you. Let me come over to you, Carrington. So when you hear that word curiosity, what comes to mind when you hear that word curiosity?
Well, you just said the word for me that I was kind of thinking of, Chris, is intrigued. Right. And when I think about as far as with my business, I'm intrigued about what can I do different. Right. And what can I do that my competitor is not doing? So that's kind of what I think about. I'm intrigued of, where I can make changes, what I can do better, anything that's going to help my business be more successful and to offer better services to my client.
Man, that's pretty powerful. I like that. What am I doing that my competitor is not doing? I love that because that would lead to definitely higher results and higher profitability. So that's really cool. All right, Harry, when you think about the word curiosity as it relates to your business, as it relates to the different things that you're doing and that you're engaged in, what comes to mind when you hear that word curiosity?
What comes in my mind is the questions that come after you get curious. Because when you're curious, you start to ask questions. Then you start to learn a few things. Then you start to get more knowledge. You start to, look at things a little bit differently. Differently more than other people. So definitely, when I'm curious, it's not only a business thing, it's with everything. And you can relate it to everything, whether it's cooking, whether it's fixing cars. You're curious about something. Live streaming. You had to be curious about how these cameras work. So a lot comes to mind.
I like that. I like that. So it really brings up a lot of questions, right? I mean, I think questions are powerful because when you think about questions, that word quest that's in it, it leads us on a path to somewhere. We're on a quest for something. So it creates that curiosity to want to learn, to want to know more for this quest. Or a word that a lot of people like to use is I'm on a journey, right? We're all on a journey. I think everybody should be on a journey to their best life, their best self. Somewhere, right? You're on that quest. And in order to have that unfold before you, you're going to come up with a set of questions. So you're going to have to be curious about this quest, your destination, or even if it even is a destination, but just being on a journey should be able to unlock some questions. There's a quote that I heard that said that old age begins when curiosity ends. And for me,
Mhm.
that hit me kind of hard, right? I want to hear from you. One of you, if you want to share a little bit about that. Old age begins when curiosity ends, right? Instead of just thinking you're old because of what your current age, just based on the number of years you on Earth, that doesn't determine that you're old or not. I think, and I agree with that quote, that you are old when curiosity ends. When you stop being curious about life and curious about moving forward and doing the things you're passionate about, then you're old because you're parked, in my opinion. Any one of you would like to share a little bit about that?
I can tell you one thing. I'm never getting old because I'm never going to stop being curious about anything on this planet. So never will be old.
I like that. I like that. Tim?
Yeah, I was just thinking, the statement implies that, um, you know, you're aging because, you're losing energy, you're losing that curiosity, you're losing life. Um, and you have, no longer you have an interest in what's going on around you, you know, what might be happening with the people in your life, whether they are customers or whether they're family members. And you just fall into this deep level of apathy, if you will, because you just have lost interest in life, and that can certainly be detrimental.
Oh wow, you took it to an even deeper level there. I like that. All right, Carrington, what are your thoughts about it?
I think that if you're no longer curious, to me, you're no longer living, right?
Mm.
Because my thing is, what's the point? Like, why are you here?
For real.
I mean, that's
Very
just, if you're no longer curious about anything, you're no longer living. So,
Mhm.
there is no point to me. And that's just my opinion.
If you're no longer curious, what you said, you're no longer living.
You're no longer living because what's the point? What I mean, you're just kind of doing life, right, rather than living life.
Right. I get the picture in my mind like watching paint dry.
Right.
In the winter.
Good analogy.
Right. Because how else could you describe a person that is no longer interested?
I feel like that's when you basically have given up.
Mm. Mm. Have you ever had any of you ever had someone around you that you could tell that they checked out or they're just disinterested and that they're no longer curious about anything, that just willing to accept things how they come to them? Anybody had that experience?
Well,
No.
go ahead, Harry.
No, I just said no. It sounds like you got a story.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what the question caused me to consider is the differences in personalities, right? So what we know is that some of us are introverted in our personality type, right? Our energy comes from within. So there's not a lot of outward interaction with others that is necessary for the person who is a predominantly an introvert personality type versus the one just the opposite, the extrovert. The extrovert personality type is more than likely the person who's going to ask the questions, as Carrington was saying. They're going to ask those why and what if, and they're going to do that exploration to get knowledge. That's that outward movement, right? But for that introverted personality type, they are more inclined to listen to what's going on around them. They are yet still curious, and they're processing that information internally. And at the point that they deem it necessary to display movement, whether it's saying something or doing something, they're going to be processing the collection of that information, of that data, if you will, that they're listening to. Even if you think about in a conversation like this, right, where there are a group of people discussing something, if one of the persons on this panel were predominantly an introvert personality type, they may not be asking a lot of questions. And my point in this is that it might be it may be an error on others' part to misread them and think that they're not curious and to think that they're not engaged. And I've seen that happen a lot in my work around corporate training and development. It's that person in the room who's an introvert that is real easy for us to assume that they are not engaged, that they're not interested in what's being discussed. And that's oftentimes, for me, that's been the person who comes up after the session is over with a smile on their face, extended hand, saying, I got so much out of this today. I'm so glad I was here. And so I think there's a caution in this conversation where we have to be careful about how we may evaluate and judge whether someone is indeed curious.
I like that. I like that. Carrington, you're shaking your head. Did you have something you want to add to that?
I like that. I didn't even think about that, but that is true because you do have, I've been around tons of introverts and around introverts. My sister is an introvert, but she processes everything. She's quiet, right? And she's processing everything. And she's very analytical. So she's taking all the information. She has to have all the information. And in the meantime, she's processing it. And then she may have a question after the fact. And that was good. That's a great way of looking at it. And so it's our perception too. We have to be careful about our perception of other people and what we think,
I like that. Harry, did you see you nodding your head? Did you want to add something to that?
No.
All right. I'm curious why not? You sit there nodding your head, so I'm curious.
I was going to say.
I'm curious now.
They said the stuff I was going to say.
Okay. Okay, I get it. So, that is a cautionary tale that when it comes to other people, that we be mindful of our perceptions of other people, whether they are curious or whether they are engaged or not, right? So there's always something that we can do on our end to find out what a person's level of curiosity is. So Tim, I'll pass it back over to you. So if you have a person like that, what are some things you can do? Because we're looking at Sunday as pregame. We're going into this week. We have coworkers, we have employees, we have business partners, we have family members. So if they are distributing a behavior that our perception is telling us that they're not curious enough about the task or what I'm sharing with them, they're not curious enough about what we need to do in our company to be more profitable, more productive. So if we see those types of behaviors, Tim, what could we do before we act on that perception or that prejudgment? What are some signs or some things that we can do to evaluate a person's level of engagement or a person's level of curiosity?
Yeah, so several things. One, individually, raise our level of awareness around this whole conversation around curiosity and how it plays out. Secondly, is if someone clearly or through our perception that they are in fact introverted in their personality type, then don't ask open-ended questions, particularly if they're in a group environment, right? Don't ask an open-ended question anticipating that individual is going to respond, because oftentimes it's the extrovert personality type in a group situation that's going to dominate the conversation. And so if you want to know what that introvert is thinking, then I always say, ask them. If you ask them, they'll more than likely tell you. But if you just say, what do you all think? They're probably not going to be the first person to respond. Then the other thing we can do is change the environment so that it becomes much more comfortable for them to be able to engage verbally, right, and openly. And so one of the techniques we use if we're doing large group discussion and training is that we create smaller groups. If it's a virtual meeting like this, then we would perhaps put them in small breakout groups where there are smaller numbers of folks in the room that might create a more comfortable environment for them to engage in. If it's a live training, then you might do something like table groups, but you want to reduce the environment to a point that they are much more comfortable and open about engaging. So those are some things that come to mind.
I like that because you said ask them, right? So that's a message to us. Instead of just locking in on whatever we perceive to be, it doesn't mean that your perception is wrong, but validate it by you or us operating in curiosity. become curious enough about this person to ask them, find out what's happening, find out how are they receiving information instead of making judgments. And I remember this from doing contract training work, where my own personal behavior is when I'm learning or listening, I tend to doodle a lot. Right. I like to draw stuff or draw some of the things that someone is talking about, drawing pictures or images or graphs or mind map things out as a person is talking. And someone could easily view me as disengaged. Right. I'm not flipping through the book like everybody else. I'm checking on making sure I get it and I could put everything in context so I know I got it so I can act off of this information. So I'm always doodling, creating mind maps or something like that. And that helped me out because in my journey of being a contract trainer, I would often come in contact with people in my classes that are doodlers also. Right? Where other people thought, oh, they're not paying attention. They always just sitting over there doing something. No, they're paying full attention. They're paying more attention than the person looking at you with googly eyes. They are laser focused, just like Carrington was talking about her sister. I know she's a brilliant individual, right? So it's like we process information differently. And Tim, I know you got a lot of extensive history when it comes to bias, inclusion, and diversity. You can't lead with your own biases, right?
Right.
So it's sort of like you got to become curious about another person. How do they learn? Right, because there's different learning modalities. So in the training industry, you got to be curious about how are these different people in this group that I'm in front of, how are they learning? I got to be curious about that because I have to deploy different methodologies to reach those different people. And being curious, it only makes me better. It only makes me better. Carrington or Harry, did you have something that you thought of you want to dive in there about what we're talking about?
Harry, do you have anything? You have something?
Yeah. I mean, I'm along the same lines as Tim. Depending on how I see you, I could bluntly ask you, are you bored? Do you find any of this interesting? Or I can, see you in another light and ask, what do you think about this subject? Or what do you think about what they said and get their reaction? Some people, they are introverted and they'll talk you to death, one-on-one, but won't say nothing in a group. And tell you everything this guy or lady is saying and what they don't like and what they think is good. So yeah, I'm one of them. I ask. Because I do observe a lot too. And I am quiet at times, but I call it learning mode. I'm like so laser focused on what you're saying and wanting to understand it that I don't say anything.
Hey Chris, something Harry just said there towards the end. Remember he said he's quiet at times, and he defined that with clarity and said he's in learning mode. So you know what I'm saying? And that's the point. Part of the point that I'm making there is that it would be easy for us to look at a Harry subject and just quickly conclude or assume that he's not engaged, he's not interested, he's not curious. But like he just said, I'm in learning mode, right? And we have to value that, and we have to recognize that and make sure that we enhance the environment so that that learning process for him can continue to happen, so that at the point that he's made a conclusion about whatever it is he's learning, he's now ready to share.
That's good.
I like that. So, but I also put the question back on us whenever we're facilitating anything. If we're the person in front of the room facilitating anything, what type of environment have we created? Have we created an environment that's conducive for curiosity for someone to be engaged? Like a lot of people I know, I've come across that they just like to wing it. I know a lot of people that always like to wing it. And when you wing it, I get there are times where that may be something necessary to do because you're doing something where you didn't have a lot of advanced notice, but because of your experience and because of how long you've been in that industry, you could probably wing it and have something still turn out well. But there's something about being strategic about doing what you do, right? Especially as a professional, creating an environment that's conducive for curiosity, for the mind. There's a quote that I love, that the mind the mind is intrigued by unanswered questions. Or no, let me say it again. The mind is tormented by unanswered questions. So when there's a question on the table, your mind will work to figure it out. I mean, think about it. Have you ever been talking to someone, having just a regular conversation, and you talk about something, you can't remember the name of something, and it's just like, oh my God, I was just looking at this the other day. Oh man, what is that thing? And it bothers you all day and night. You get your cell phone out, you're doing Google searches, searching your computer, because the mind is tormented by unanswered questions. So what could we do to create an environment of curiosity where people are coming into your world like, oh, that's interesting. I never thought about it like that. I'd like to try that, right? Then the mind kicks off a lot of good things, because one thing that we know about studying curiosity is that it kicks off a chemical reaction on the inside of you. Curiosity triggers dopamine. And dopamine is that neurotransmitter that just gives you this excited rush, this good feeling. Like Stephanie Mills, I feel good all over, right? Because you got that dopamine and all. Excuse me. Don't worry about it. I can sing, but though I just choose not to as a profession. So thank you very much. And we know that all dopamine wants is more dopamine. So, and the more curious you are, or the more curious I can make my training environment, that dopamine is kicking in, and I don't have to worry about somebody being bored, because they have no choice, because I'm triggering curiosity, which triggers dopamine, which means they are energized and engaged throughout the process. Tim, you look like you was going to add something to that.
No, that's good. I was just agreeing. That was a physical expression of agreement.
All right.
Mills thing.
Yeah, I saw the reaction when I started singing, that it was unfavorable. So I decided to pull back just a little bit. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about curiosity and relationships. I'm going to kick it off with you, Carrington. So wait a minute, what was that look?
I'm all ears.
Because it's a tough topic. This is a tough one, because it's really a tough question. It really can be an interesting question to have, especially if your relationship isn't going the way you want it to. I wonder what the curiosity meter would say. Right? Where would the relationship fall on the curiosity scale? Are you living together or dying together? How curious are you in your relationship to keep that spark alive, to find something else that intrigues you? Don't be suspicious, like Tim said in the beginning. That ain't gonna make the relationship go well if you don't understand the direction or the context of being suspicious. Right, you're starting off wrong. So, Carrington, when it comes to curiosity and relationships, what thoughts come to mind for you?
I would say for me, I think a lot of times in the beginning is where we're the most curious, right? You don't know a lot about that person. So, you're intrigued by them. You're obviously attracted to them. So you're intrigued by them. You're curious to find out, what they like, what they don't like, what you like about them, what you don't like about them. I think that as time goes on, I think that we sometimes get comfortable and we lose that curiosity. And I think that's what happens when the relationships tend to go south, I'll say. Yeah, that's all I can say about that.
She said relationships go sour. Ooh, ain't nothing like say that again?
No, I was just saying, I think that's what happens is when you no longer are curious because you get comfortable. Right. And I think that I don't think you can ever truly know a person. I think you continuously learn more about the person that you're with. But I think that we get to a point to where we get comfortable and we're no longer intrigued.
Yeah.
Like we were in the beginning.
Okay. I always do that when you dropping them jewels. I love that, because when you get comfortable, that means you're in your comfort zone. You're comfortable. You're so familiar with them that you don't even do anything anymore. Like you don't, it's just like that. It's just like you stop doing the things that help bring that person in your world that made them attractive to you. You just stop doing all that. Like, especially during the pandemic, you just walk around in sweats all day, just hair not done, don't even brush your teeth anymore. So it's like, I'm not even curious about the potential of this relationship anymore. And it can sour and go south and go in your comfort zone. But the interesting thing is curiosity is a significant key to help get out of the comfort zone. So that's amazing. So I love that you said that. So let's go ahead to Tim next. Tim, so when it comes to relationships, how does that curiosity factor play in to relationships? What are your thoughts about curiosity in relationships?
Well, I was listening to Carrington and I agree with her wholeheartedly. And I think what happens is habit takes us into that comfort zone, as you've defined it, Chris, right? And so we are, we've certainly used and heard this term of being creatures of habit. And so once that settles in, once that person understands what our habits are, to Carrington's point, that level of curiosity begins to decline, right? Because now I know that this is your favorite, this is what you always do. And so what's really happening from a neuroscience perspective is that the brain is needing new information, new data. And that's how we can ignite that curiosity. And we need to begin to explore and ask questions and explore, different ways of doing things and the what ifs. And I think that can help bring or put more life into that relationship. And so the idea is to try and move away from that habit. We always go to Cracker Barrel on Friday evenings, right? Well, at some point that kind of becomes habitual. It gets stale. And so maybe we look at, having dinner at a different restaurant, or maybe we have dinner at home or something. So break that habit, right, cycle, and begin to infuse curiosity and newness in that relationship. And I think that would be a way to help keep that relationship vibrant.
I like that, and I also like Cracker Barrel. So put some respect on them pancakes with that hot syrup. We know how to bring that syrup out to you hot. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Not every Friday.
Hey, when he said Cracker Barrel, I was lost. I was gone. I was like, man, I could go for some of them pancakes right now. I'm curious about how them pancakes taste on a Sunday night on Resurrection Day. How do pancakes taste, Tim White? But I agree with you. I love what you're saying. Is sometimes the sameness gets in the way. Sameness can be an enemy to your relationship, right? That you're not curious anymore. What about doing something completely different, like cooking at home? Light a candle. Turn out
because that
the
sameness
lights.
minimizes the curiosity, right? Because now I know.
Right. Yeah. Because it's not interesting anymore. I remember. Let me see if I can remember this quote by Bishop Dale Bronner. He was talking about when you're putting together a message or you putting together a talk. He said, always remember the miniskirt theory. Keep it short enough to keep you interested, but long enough to cover the subject matter.
That's good.
Because it keeps you curious. A bishop said it. So if anybody got any problems with that, it came from a bishop. All right, just go. Be curious about going in the corner, right? Because it'll keep you interested when you think about that, right? It just keeps your focus on there, and getting out of the sameness. So I would challenge everybody right before we get to Harry to talk about curiosity in relationships. I would challenge everybody to look at your relationships, not just the romantic relationships or the significant other, but look at all your relationships and find those areas of sameness, find those areas of toxicity, or those areas where things aren't growing anymore, where you're not curious anymore. Because let me ask you a question: Would you accept phone calls from people you're not curious from? Probably not. Somebody call you, you're not curious about their day or what they're doing. You're not curious about they ain't had no value. You see their phone come in, I'll let that go to voicemail right there.
Exactly.
That's the uncurious life right there. Right. Now I see where you're going. I see why you're there. I ain't talking to you. I ain't talking to you. Interesting. Harry, curiosity and relationships. What say you? Curiosity and relationships.
You know what? Sometimes you do have to look at yourself and your curiosity level too, because uh, when you're talking to your significant other, sometimes there is a big disconnect. You have no idea what they're talking about, and they have no idea what you're talking about. And you ask the question, and before, in my childish days, I used to be like, a bunch of curse words, and you don't understand English. But now it's being curious about what part of what I said didn't you understand? Maybe I'm saying it a little differently, or I could say it better so you can understand the way you hear things. So I think, sometimes you have to look at yourself too, and be curious enough to wonder how they learn, how they hear, and
Hmm.
that could make relationships a little bit better.
I like that. I like that. Be curious about how they learn, how they hear. So, how many of you? Let me just push. Let me by show of hands. How many of you are familiar with the book Love Languages? You never heard
Y'all
of the
know I
Love
don't know how to
Languages?
read.
Lord Jesus, here we go. All right.
Come on.
Hey, don't worry about it. Readings for rich people. Don't worry about it. All right. So, there's the book about love languages. So, Nikki and Tim could chime in on this. Is is that a solution for people to read, especially when it comes to not being curious? If you're challenging that area of curiosity, connecting to something Harry said that was powerful, is learning what their language is so that you can communicate. Right? Be curious enough to get a book like The Five Love Languages so that you can read it to find out what is this person's love language, and not just in romantic relationship, also business relationships. Everybody has a language. To be curious about what their language is and making a conscious decision to communicate to them in that language so that you can have more successful outcomes. Tim or Carrington, would you like to take that?
Carrington?
Yeah. Let's see. For as far as relationships, like, I'm a woman, so as far as a relationship with the man, I think it's really, really important. It's an amazing book, but I think you have to do the work, right? Not just read it, but actually do the work, and then you have to figure out what your partner's love language is, right? And then do the work to just do the work, right? Apply the work, apply what you're reading to your daily life, because I think that actually helps out a lot. Never thought about it, Chris, as far as in a business relationship. I wish he would write a book for business relationships, because it's a little different, because this one is more about relationships with a partner. But I wish he would write something about a love language for businesses. I think that would be great, or with, for your clients.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm not sure if there could be one out there because I think I remember seeing one something around the languages, especially for the work environment. But
Really?
it all goes back to curiosity, right? To
Right.
know that the people that we engage with, our clients, right, our prospects, that they each one of them have a love language that they engage with, but each one of them have a language, a different language on how they interact with people, right? And so it's good for us. And I know Tim does some work in the area of emotional intelligence, right? And your emotional IQ. Understanding that, so when you are communicating with people, there are certain things that you're reading and recognizing, whether it's behavioral, whether it's visible, or whether it's just words that they're saying, paying attention to those words so that you could communicate. I know in NLP, neuro linguistic programming, there's a lot of techniques that they talk about, especially one of the techniques is mirroring, right? Mirroring the person that you're talking to. If they have their hands folded on the table, fold your hands as well. You begin to mirror them. There's a whole science behind that to help tear down walls of communication so that you can engage with people. Tim, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah. So I think that it really, depends on how interested you are in that individual, because really that book is a tool for effective communication. Really, it's fundamentally it's about how people communicate with one another, and our ability to understand where we are and where someone else is in that regard. You know, what is it that would allow me to communicate better with my partner? What lights them up? What gets them interested? What gets them curious? And if I understand what that is, then I can communicate with them on that level. And so I would certainly be in agreement with the panel on that one. It's a really, really popular book, and I think has some very valuable points to it.
Absolutely. How we communicate with people is very important. Learning what those languages are, learning what those signals are. And there's a lot of work that we've already done on ourselves. Like one of the things I love Carrington talked about, it's one of my word of 2020 and 2021, or phrase of 2020, 2021, is doing the work. When you're doing the work on yourself, like I know I love listening to audiobooks and reading books, right? Tim White has shared with me 2 or 3 books I already got in my phone ready to go for my next books. Tim is an avid listener of audiobooks, and he's an avid reader, avid researcher. So when the more work that you do on yourself, the more curiosity can help you with information to be able to better connect with other people. I love what John Maxwell says: everyone communicates, but few connect. It's in the connection that we experience higher and better levels of relationship, right? It's in the connection. It's not in the communication. It's not, well, I already told you how I feel about this, told you. No, it's about connecting, right? Are you connecting? Are you curious enough to connect with another individual to improve your results? Are you curious enough to read books and get books, right? Like some people say, well, I'm not getting counseling. I don't need no counseling. Oh, yeah, you do. You do. I'm telling you, as your friend right now, you need counseling. Whether you get it or not is another story. But you do, because you can't see the picture when you're standing in the frame. You need somebody outside of that picture to be able to tell you about your own craziness. We all have a level of craziness, and it's probably a be there to the day we're not here anymore. But you need some work to help smooth out those rough edges, right? Because it's not just what we say, it's how we say what we say, right? So even when you're communicating with somebody, if you're like Harry said earlier, well, I'm direct. What's wrong with you? Yeah, you can do that, but it might not give you the results, because that person's love language puts up a wall anytime they talk to really aggressively. So having that emotional IQ or EQ, you can grow yourself and get the tools. I like that word, Tim. Get the tools necessary to use to be able to improve the relationships. This is the last quote I'll share. I remember Mike Murdock talked about that God hides the treasures of everything you need. So think about everything you need for a moment, everything you desire, everything you want, that God hides it in the people around you. And it's your job to figure out the combination to unlock those things. And be curious enough to find out the combination. You have everything you need. That's the law of recognition. You have everything that you need. You just not recognizing it all around you. You don't need anything else. It's around you already, but you have to figure out the combination in the people that's already existing in your life and in your world. Be curious enough to unlock that, find out what the combination is to get to that. Would anybody like to jump in, dive in on anything that I just shared?
Yeah, I want to share one more thing that, kind of wraps this up. You really have to be honest with yourself too, and your limitations and your flaws, in order for this to, all work. Because some people will say there is nothing wrong with me, but like Chris said, yeah, it is something wrong with you. You don't recognize it because you're in the frame, and everybody else will tell you, and oh no, they're wrong. But if one too many people say something, you're doing this, then you must be. So you got to be honest with yourself and you know, uh, relate that to whatever situation is going on, whether it's business, whether it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's just like those relationships that continue to pass. It's just like when you talk to a friend and you know they have a series of relationships that all end the same way, and it's like, well,
the same exact way,
right? The same exact. Well, maybe it's not them.
Yeah,
maybe it's you. What scripture says, "Thou art the man, David." It's you. It's not them. What they say when you point one finger at somebody else, you got three pointing back at you. Maybe it's you.
Some people bring their representative.
Bring their representative.
You know, when that person goes home and then it's just you, you know, what happens now? Me, I'm always me wherever I go. I'm that cheery, I'm that jokey person, but I can have a serious conversation with you too.
Right. You gotta own your own ish.
Yeah.
You gotta own your own ish. You know, I know I'm crazy, right? So you gotta know where you are, but always work on yourself. No one's perfect. If you was perfect, you wouldn't be on the planet. There would be no need for you anymore. Always be willing to grow. Always be yearning, earning, and learning in life. Always be. Tim?
So I'm thinking about the development of this curiosity trait, right? And researchers say that we are at our highest curiosity point in our childhood years. You know, so for anyone who's a parent, or for those of us who may not be parents but have certainly spent time around children, you know, what is it that children consistently say to adults, you know, or to their parents? You're right. They're constantly asking. They're asking why. And so when you think about curiosity, that's what they're doing. They are curious about the world around them and the people in that world around them. And so they are learning, right? As Harry said earlier, right? He's in that learning mode. And that's what's happening when children are young like that. And they're constantly asking those questions. It's because they're doing the data collection. But think about it. What happens oftentimes to those children when they're in that curiosity mode from the parent or from the adult? Stop asking me so many questions.
Go somewhere and sit down.
Exactly, right? Go somewhere and
go ask your mama.
When we think about it in that context, what we are doing is stifling the curiosity of that young person, right? And so then they get in that mode where we shut them down. And so that quote you gave earlier about aging begins to happen because they wind up growing up thinking it's wrong for me to be curious.
Right.
That is good. That is good. And we're all parents up here. Anybody can chime in on that. I remember something someone said years ago. They said, like, in life, when we're a child, we're given a box of crayons and color and told to color, and we're coloring. But when we become adults, they take that box of crayons away, and that later on in life, you just want your crayons back. You want to color.
Now it's pencils.
Right.
Adult coloring books.
Right.
No longer crayons, it's colored pencils.
I'm asking myself why right now. I'm asking myself why right now. That's all I know. Yes, it is. Colored pencils. And that's a great conversation too, Tim, about talking about how do we spark curiosity in our children, right? I know my mother was a master at that. I remember she would be part of organizations that did a lot with the youth and always bring me along. And I would always have an opportunity to do things that were seemingly impossible, like fly a plane. I think I was 13 where they took us up there and, you have the pilot next to you and he, you gives you the controls and you're flying the plane, so my curiosity stayed peaked. I remember for years always wanting to create a nonprofit. I didn't call it curiosity. The word not coming to me, but there's a word, immersion, right? Creating a process where you take kids and put them in scenarios that spark the creativity, that spark the curiosity. When I was a kid growing up in the Bronx, New York City, Harry, I don't know if you ever heard of the Fresh Air Fund. It was a
Yeah.
program that took kids out of the city, urban, and put us
PAL
up there in
too.
up there in the farm life, and you get to experience a whole nother life. And my mother sent us there almost every summer. Almost every summer we went up there, but the curiosity, and then we begin to develop relationships and get to understand people of other ethnicities, other groups. So no matter what situation I came into later in life, I was comfortable with different groups of people because of the impact of the Fresh Air Fund, putting me in scenarios where I had to be curious and creative to be able to thrive and not just survive in those moments. Harry?
The Army did that for us.
Yep.
They sent us places to where,
Lord.
you would never dream of going.
Right. Right.
But, as you get there, you're curious to how they cook this food, what's their living conditions, how they maintain themselves.
Right.
That really helped me. And for those with going back to the kid thing, I always kept talking to my kids, and only my daughter, I was like, could you go ask your mother every once in a while, because she be just like drilling. I'm like, okay. But you always I never stumped that the word you used, Tim. I never stumped them from being curious.
Yeah.
I would say for me, I'm never satisfied.
Wow.
I'm always wanting to learn, always wanting to do better. That's one of the reasons why I love to travel, because I love to people watch. I love to learn about new cultures. I love to try new food. I just think it's awesome because you get out of your own element and you see other people live. When you visit other countries and stuff, and you realize a lot of places that you go, how blessed you really are. And if you don't get out of your own environment sometimes and see that, you take for granted what you do have and how blessed you really are, because you've not seen bad or worse.
The other side of the tracks.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why I love to travel too. I've just never, I don't know if never satisfied is a good way of explaining it, but I'm always always curious. We'll put it like that. Since that's the topic. I'm always curious. Not that I'm never satisfied. I'm always curious. I want to know
what you did.
more.
Hey, that's a shirt. That's a shirt for you, Carrington. That's a shirt. Hashtag always curious.
That is.
That's a shirt right there.
It's probably on Amazon already. I'm gonna check.
I don't know. It ain't like how you create it. Be curious. Yours would be different. Tim, did you want to add anything else to that about the curiosity in children and the relationship?
No, but in terms of as Harry and Carrington was saying about being curious in the travel piece, is one of the things that made me think about was that it's reciprocal, right? So when you're going into different places that you don't normally exist in, you're meeting people who may be of a different cultural background. Their lives are different from yours. And just by virtue of you being curious enough to put yourself in that place, they wind up learning some things about you and your way of living. And so it just kind of brings it full circle.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. All right, so we're coming to the top of the hour, so I want to ask one more question, and then we're going to go around and give our contact information. Everybody can give their contact information out. So I want to hear your final words. Matter of fact, give your contact info at the end of your final words. So my final question for you is, what tip do you have that you want to share with people, since this is Sunday pregame, to use curiosity this week? What tip could you share with people on using curiosity this week in their business, in their relationship, anything that you want to share with them as your parting thought? So give your tip and then give your contact information for how people can get in contact with you. We'll kick it off with Harry to go ahead and share his tip with using curiosity this week and his contact information. Harry?
One of the ways I think you can use it is to understand what you do. If you work in a job, understand what what your supervisor does, or some of the people, if you are a supervisor, some of the people below you, understand what they do. Be a little curious and learn what they do so you can understand and communicate with them a little better, whether it's, down or up. That's my tip. The way you can reach me, the easiest way is my digital business card, which is Harry Jameson. That's JAMISON, harryjameson.info.
All right. Pretty easy to get in contact with you. harryjameson.info. Yes, I love it. All right, we're going to go ahead over to Carrington. She's going to share her power tip for the week: how to use curiosity to unlock productivity, performance, relationship. Anything that you would like to share, Carrington?
Sure. How to use curiosity: research. If you don't know, research, Google, YouTube are amazing. And then also, if you know someone who's a subject matter expert in that area, also you can reach out to them. That's my tip as far as being curious. I would also say my contact information is on Facebook, Virtual Visions Event Services. On Instagram is VRTLVSNS on Instagram. And then our email address is theteam@vves.org.
All right. Fantastic. All right, Tim, we're coming over to Mr. Tim White, going to share his tip on how to use curiosity to unlock some wonderful things this week after this amazing conversation that we had today. So, Tim, share your tip and then your contact information for the people.
Absolutely. So what I would recommend is to intentionally choose to do something different this week. Reach out to someone that you don't normally reach out to, but do something that's outside of your normal activity of the week. Intentionally put yourself in a position of being uncomfortable, right? And you'll be amazed at what you may wind up learning, because that in and of itself will inherently raise your level of curiosity. And then discover what you may learn in that process and find value in it. You can reach me at twhite@hr-upshot, UPSHOT as in Tim.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Beads, BEADS by Tim. That's my Instagram page. All right.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Everybody, let's give our amazing panel a huge round of applause for a great conversation this evening. Panel, do me a favor and just stand by for me for one moment. Thank you, everyone, for watching tonight. Sunday's pregame is all about some tips, tools, and techniques about things that we can do on Sunday to set ourselves up for a highly productive and profitable week. Tonight, we talked about unlocking curiosity. And when I tell you, this was an amazing conversation, and I enjoyed it immensely. And I want to let you know that my panel here shared some great wisdom nuggets, some things that were just really amazing. So everybody that's watching the replay, if you have any questions, just leave it inside of the comments and we will get back with you and we will connect with you. I want you to have a powerful week. I want you to be curious about receiving some uncommon ideas and things that you can do to just open up the creativity in your world. Be curious. Like Carrington said, hashtag always curious. Find yourself wanting to unlock the deeper instead of settling for the cheaper in life. You can do it. I believe in you. Step outside your comfort zone this week and enjoy life. So until we connect again next week, it's been absolutely amazing. And I look forward to seeing you over in the next video. Thank you so much, champion. Talk to you soon.